We're back, people, and today we got another video going over the Miami Dolphins training camp, and I want to see which players that are, considered training camp standouts that I think can carry that success into the regular season. Because every year you see players, that are kind of standouts, and then sometimes they disappear once you get to, actual game live action. So let's get over this. Gonna avoid the obvious because we've had the obvious training camp standouts like the Zach Sealers, Jordan Brooks, Jalen Waddle, Tua. Like, we know what to expect from them on this team. They've been playing, in this system for a lot of years now. Very high level players, but we'll go over maybe some of the more unknowns, maybe younger guys who just joined the team. Want to start with Willie Gay Jr. actually, who's kind of been like one of the biggest standouts of camps. Dolphins brought him in on a 1-year deal, and he's been making plays. It's been reported he's getting sacks, tackle for loss, pass deflections. You could have a lot of interceptions. I think only has one, but he's been super productive in this system. And he is a guy that I do think will have a solid season in Miami. Maybe not to the same level his practices are, because his practices sounds like he's going insane every practice. But I do think he'll be like a solid player for the Dolphins. Whether he's a starter or rotational, I still think he'll play a lot of snaps, because he is kind of a tweener type player that I could say maybe not playing like full-time off-ball linebacker, but, getting some snaps where they blitz him, use him as like an overhang type of player. Very interesting fit in the system. And I thought he had an interesting quote the other day where he talked about just being able to run and hit things, because that's his play style. He's not really like a total read type of player, kind of play slow, play with that high mental processing, read all the action. It's more of like, if he sees it, run downhill. And it kind of is a good fit for what Weaver, I think, will ask of him. And because he's a freak athlete, like an absolutely insane athlete for the position. But I think he's had some troubles with, maybe instincts at points in his career. Then it just depends on usage. I think Weaver really understands how to use him and get the best out of him. So I do think you will see a quality season out of Willie Gay. I think he's one that will mostly translate, maybe not to that same level as his practices. He's going insane, but I think he will be a useful weapon for that Miami Dolphins defense. So I'm excited to see Willie Gay Jr. play and how they use him, because I think it will be very, very fun. And he's also someone that I think will help limit plays from super athletic quarterbacks, because this guy has speed. He has good size for his speed. He's a strong tackler. If he wraps you up, he can bring you to the ground. Tough player. So I think he can help in those situations. Guy that you can use in blitz. He's got some coverage ability. Someone that I do think will translate fairly nicely out of maybe some of the potential unknowns, because he didn't play a ton of snaps last year for the Saints. Second player that I think we'll see a sort of translate from his training camp is Storm Duck. Storm Duck's had a pretty strong training camp. Out of that corner room, I think out of the young guys, he's going to get that first shot. He's going to be one of your starters. I think the team really likes him, and I think with the Dolphins, looks like they're going to run more press man this season. It seems like Duck is very comfortable doing that. He's a very athletic corner, and I think when he played press man last year in the preseason and the regular season, he looked very comfortable, and he's getting a lot of press man reps in training camp from all the clips I've seen. And he's going against guys like Tyreek and Waddle, and it doesn't get tougher than that, when you're going into games. So I do think Storm Duck is going to have a pretty solid season. I think he's the most likely out of the young corners to step up, just due to opportunity. And I think that the talent kind of is one of the better of that group as well. So I do think you're going to see a pretty solid season for Storm Duck, especially considering he's like a second-year UDFA guy. And you look at the rest of the group, I do think Storm Duck's training camp play will also translate to the next level. Those are probably the two main ones, in my opinion, that I could see having pretty solid seasons, at least in comparison to what they were previously. And I'm excited to see both of them. Then there's some other guys. I think the rookies that have kind of stood out, we started to see once the pads came on. Kenneth Grant, Jonas Sava-Ianaya, and Jordan Phillips have kind of been the guys that have kind of been making plays every camp, at least according to some of the beat reporters, specifically Travis Wingfield. Shout out Travis Wingfield. He has the best notes on the practices. But I think all three of those guys are going to see some success, especially when you consider capital. I think the first 2-round picks, like Jonah, Kenneth Grant, going to play a lot of snaps. And I think while there might be some rookie growing pains, so maybe some inconsistencies at time, I think they're going to be considered overall hits by the end of the year. With their play, I think they're going to have plus play for you. Jonah, it seems like he's fitting in pretty nicely at left guard. I think he's a good fit. Him and Patrick Paul are building up a pretty nice chemistry. Patrick Paul is another good shout because he's been one of the biggest training camp standouts. And he's been like, I thought he was going to play probably. I feel like I was higher on Paul this season than most people because I didn't love the draft pick, but I think I was higher on Paul than most people going into the season. Like I thought he was going to play at a decent level, but with how the training camp sounds and like some of the stuff that I've seen, it seems like Paul could be one of the biggest breakout players on the team. So I think Paul and Jonah on the offensive line are going to play at a pretty solid level and continue that into training camp. Same with Kenneth Grant, same with Jordan Brooks, or Jordan Phillips, my bad, not Jordan Brooks. I think they'll do a solid job on the D-line. Kenneth Grant, like I think Phillips as like a 5th round rotational player will be solid. I'm not going to say he's going to do like super uber productive, but I think he'll have a solid year for a 5th round rookie. And then Grant, I think he'll have a slight incline as the year goes on. Maybe start a little inconsistent, but just continue to get better and better each week. I have super high hopes for him. There are some other players that I think, stand out. Like remember last year, like Quentin Bell was like one of the big training camp standouts. And then going into the season, he didn't do that much. The second half of the season, he did improve and become at least a valuable rotational player, but he never played up to that training camp standard. There's some guys that I don't think, like Willie Gay, who we mentioned earlier, I don't know if he'll play up to that training camp standard. I think he'll be better than what Bell was, but I don't know if he'll quite play up to like that crazy standard, but will still be solid / good. Another person who's kind of stood out had been like Pharaoh Brown and Alexander Madison. Now, those are two vets that I could see having like sort of that Quentin Bell type of arc, where maybe they're definitely not right away playing up to that standard that they're setting in training camp, because they have been like, they're veterans who played a long career. I do think the system fits them better than they've been previously, so that like probably elevates them at least a little bit, and they'll probably get some opportunities. Pharaoh Brown will definitely play a ton and be, I think, a decent blocker. I think he'll do better than Durham Smythe, but I don't know if he's going to play up to like some insane standard. Like same with Alexander Madison. He's a guy who's over the last 4 seasons averaged under 4 yards per carry. I think he could, I think those guys could be like decent situational players for you in certain moments, but I don't see them carrying like that overall training camp, like high level play into the regular season. It would be like limited moments, more like of what a Quentin Bell was for you last season. So those are kind of like the players I'm looking at. There's other people that are potential standouts, but some of those guys are kind of fighting for roster spots. And, some of them are like more guys who won't really play a lot in year one. Like Quinn Ewers is having a quality training camp, but just with how the NFL works and the Dolphins sign Zach Wilson, like he's going to be your QB3 and he'll only play if injuries happen. And I don't see him playing at like a super high level as a 7th round rookie, just being like thrown into the fire if he actually has to play. So like he's someone, like I'm not going to see, he's not going to carry over that play. But I do think a decent amount of them can, especially the first few that I mentioned. I think the young guys, and then also Willie Gay Jr. and Storm Duck, I have pretty solid expectations for them going into the season. And I think that's pretty much everyone I wanted to mention. Like there's a lot of other people having quality training camps, like Minka, the Minkas, the Zach Sealers, the Jordan Brookses over the world. But we know what to expect from them. We know they're going to have good seasons. So we don't need to spend really time talking about that. So those are the players that I think the Miami Dolphins that are kind of standing out at training camp that can carry that into the regular season. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And 6 time. Peace.